I have the great pleasure of keeping you guys in the room for 5 more minutes, keeping you away from lunch. But I'll try to be quick with some concluding remarks. The last 3 days, 2.5, 3 days have been fascinating conversations. We designed the program with an eye toward a range of perspectives, a range of approaches, a range of core issues, and yet trying to bring those things into some kind of synthesis rather than separating these things out. And I think that's been, from my perspective, a remarkable success. We also wanted to have an academic conference with experts, but nevertheless make it public-facing and mobilize the ideas out to feed into the public conversation, validate what the good people are trying to do out there, and denaturalize the status quo, show it to be a product of history, of a particular regime, and therefore also subject to change. I want to identify 3 kind of axes that I identified in the conversation, something that I think we danced around a little bit. So the first game that I thought kind of played out over the course of the conference, we could maybe call it Global South, Global North game, a kind of back and forth, but maybe with the traditional roles reversed to some extent. So from people who focus on the Global South, we got sober assessments of the situations, of hierarchies that are built into the system. But nevertheless, as I think about some of the case studies that were presented, Bolivia, Brazil, South Korea, China, obviously, maybe we could throw Spain, Southern Europe into that bucket as well. There's a kind of, look at how much we can do, okay? Despite all of these constraints, there's so much that can be done. In those kinds of case studies, there was a sense that whenever there's an opening, whenever there is some kind of policy space that opens up, look at how countries around the world can step into that space and actually accomplish quite a lot, gain traction vis-a-vis capital, gain some influence over the investment function, more or less, and deliver public goods and welfare to people. I share Ilias's point about, okay, ultimately the ultimate goal should be to restructure the architecture, these global hierarchies. Ironically, at the same time, even as these Global South perspectives provided a lot of room for maneuver and kind of identified a lot of that policy space, ironically, a lot of the scholars who focus on the US, the EU, and I would say primarily the people who spoke about the UK, oddly, speaking from countries that have much better resources, skills, infrastructure, the perspective was much more oddly pessimistic and emphasized a lot of the constraints that are standing in the way of change, whether it's political, economic constraints, social, cultural, the media, cell phones, and all of these constraints kind of leading to pessimism. And I think that's unfortunate. I think we shouldn't fall into that trap. And in many ways, we should actually draw our inspiration from our friends in the Global South who have basically always lived in a world full of constraints. Let's focus first on defending our democracy. The challenge, though, is that liberal institutions, it turns out, matter very little to most people when they lack access to basic needs, housing, healthcare. We heard about supermarket costs. And obviously, that's been a very old critique on the left, that you actually can't really defend liberal institutions in the absence of, to use Jim Kloppenberg kind of threw this weird term into the conversation yesterday, and it came up again today, without some form of social democracy. So again, on that point, I would urge us to not retreat back into a kind of defense of liberal institutions in the face of right-wing assaults, but actually keep pushing forward and focus on beyond neoliberalism rather than merely on beyond protecting our own kind of fundamental liberal institutions. Finally, I'll try to make this brief, an axis that maybe most of you were not fully aware of because it has to do with the two central bankers that stood behind the conference and the agenda of the conference, which is me and Gary Gerstle, who designed this conference. And there's a kind of generational, as I was sitting here, I could sense the generational conversation between us and a lot of the continuities, because Gary, in many ways, is a mentor of mine, and I've learned a lot from him, and a lot of the challenges in putting the conference together for me was how to really continue a type of intellectual legacy that I took from Gary and other people of a previous generation, my own teachers who mostly came out of the New Left, and provided me with some intellectual commitments in my own work. And maybe I'll mention two in particular that actually are captured really well in Gary's first book, Working Class Americanism. What are the two kind of commitments that come up here? First, a commitment to history from below and a type of respect for ordinary people, not condescending to them, whether it's in the global north, but obviously we would extend that to some of the comments that were made about the global south. So seeing the agency, recognizing the good ideas, the ability to act on the grassroots. And the other thing has to be is the Americanism, which is a kind of theme that also came up in the conversation. The focus on the return of the nation state in a way. And Gary, I would say, has been to some extent exceptional among American historians, even as they became more and more suspicious or started to talk less and less about the nation state or about some kind of nationalism. Gary actually, that became has been one of the themes in his work throughout his career. And I think that's an important topic and something that, it came up yesterday, something we shouldn't be anxious about kind of engaging, thinking about. Obviously, basically all of the global South scholars who have talked about Beyond Neoliberalism took for granted that this involves some form of a reassertion of national sovereignty and action on the level of the nation state. So this gives me an opportunity to thank Gary for the partnership in putting the program together and taking me on this intellectual journey of trying to organize this event for all of you guys this weekend. Okay, one last comment. So obviously, thank you, all of you, for attending, and all of the other people who've been here over the last 3 days, sorry. Maybe it feels like 3 days, but 3 years, but no. I want to thank Sam Nevi for joining our team. Everybody mentioned the three of us, but it's really been four of us. Is Sam here? Thank you, Sam, for joining our team. For the last stretch. And maybe finally, thank you to Hannah, who worked very, very closely with the both of us and really had to basically teach us how to organize a conference. So we really appreciate it, and we learned a great deal from you walking us through this process. Okay, thank you very much, and let's enjoy lunch.
I wasn't leave yet. 30 seconds. The videographer has requested that everyone who has remained here come up for a shot, and you will be the ones memorialized as the core of this conference. So come up in a moment. I just want to thank Noam where's Noam? For that completely unexpected tribute. Felt a little bit like an obituary, but...
Epigraph, not epitaph.
The generational dynamic is something that's become really important to me in the last year or so, in a variety of ways. Recognizing that there is one, I think it's real, and I've spent a lot of time listening to young people and exposing myself to young talent. And part of that has been working with Noam we all adore collaboration, collectivism, well, most of us anyway, not all of us. And it's always great in the abstract, but you don't know how it's going to work out until you get into the nitty-gritty with people to actually do something together. And Noam and I thought this would be a good collaboration. It really has exceeded my expectations, so tribute to you, Noam, for we made a good team, and that will stay with me for a long time, and there's more work for us to do. And Hannah, thank you again. Godsend, my God. Finally, yeah, you saved us in at least 1,001 ways on 1,001 days, so we can never thank you enough. The speakers in the audience here are ultimately the stars of this show, and what I have learned and what I'm trying to process has already so exceeded my expectations. So thank you, thank you, thank you.